Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Worlds and Craft, a stream devoted to opening the curtain of creation on setting building, where we're talking about metaplots, minutiae, mechanics, and maps, monsters, metropolises. Tonight, though, I think we're going to be talking about something kind of on the less creative side. I shouldn't say that; it's on the creative side, but it's on the side that a lot of us don't really love, and that is organization. We've hit a point in our content creation where we are ultimately in need of a little organizing, or in need of creating a path forward. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but before that, how is everyone doing tonight? Oh, I see Black Miriam's in chat. Hi. I don't always see you, so yeah. And I see we have Cardano, Soulspeak, and Vicarclar. Yeah, just give me some skin, Bean Daddy. That's the kind of shit posting I'm here for. Oh yeah. How are you doing tonight, Wes? Oh, I call out lurkers every time, Vicar Clar. I just check the user list and say hi. If I had a larger amount of viewers, I might not, but welcome either way. I wouldn't want to spend 30 minutes listing off a bunch of viewers, but the small intimate area, okay? This is where we chat and make stuff and make settings. We've been working on the lands of Kaymor. Last week we worked on the denizens, the peoples, and I forgot to edit this, so here we go. We're talking about organizations, so maybe it's a good thing that I'm doing this live. Diving deeper. Call this one Diving Deeper, in which we lay out the way forward with our setting. Let's see. So, what I'm looking for. What's the word I'm looking for here? We have high level lore. I guess it's detailed. Detailed lore. And we're not gonna necessarily be writing any of that today, and I'm not even certain that's something I want to do on stream. Unless you guys really want to see that, because that can get very, very bland and blasé and tedious, dry. Because it's fun for the person doing the writing, but it's not really very good for showing people, and interacting. I don't think, unless you guys just want to do that as a chill thing where we chill out, but. So for those who are just joining us, Worlds and Crafts is a collaborative stream. So I work with your input all the time. Anytime you come here, you want to make input in the stream, you want to have a say in the setting, we're gonna make that happen. I realized I need to update my my map though, because it looks different. So yeah, you're right. It is trying to eat me, and the reason why is because I don't have a green screen. I'm using an overlay without one, and it's doing its best to consume me. Headphones first. Grab our map that we work on every Thursday and just drop it right on in here. Boom. All right, here's what our map looks like now. These are the lands of Kaymor. Lore in Kaymor. Boom. So after many months of building high-level lore concepts and locations peoples, and landscape. We have arrived at a point where further extrapolation at this level dooms to overwhelm us. Dooms to? Not dooms to. Threatens. There we go. Threatens to overwhelm us. To progress any further in the setting, we will need to create a path forward into deeper lore. So yeah, we have a lot of directions to potentially go with that. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to choose a location to start with, or a people's, or a concept, and we're going to just really start kind of riffing. It's the type of thing where we really want to start fleshing it out in a big way. And I've avoided that thus far, because, well, it can harm your ability to create, I think, a full and living setting if you do that too early. But we've been working on this quite a while, and there's certainly going to be things we're realizing we're missing as we go to fill in the details. We're like, oh crap, I don't have this thing, and we'll have to work on that as well. So I'm sure we'll reach points where we'll have to pause. But for me, this is the logical next step. And not everyone makes settings the same. This is just the way I do it. But yeah. So to begin then. In our beautiful setting, we have we have a lot of stuff. So let me grab the Worlds and Crafts primer. Oh. There it is. I'm gonna grab the primer I've been working on, which will be available at some point. But until then, I'm just using it as a good reference to start. So we have a whole list of locations that we could or locations and concepts that we could very easily. So as far as locations go, we have the Lighted Forest, which is a forest tended to by a strange hermit and a gestalt fungal species, thus far unnamed. It is a place, it is a mysterious place that seems to reject civilization, and magic abounds. Many spirits reside here and have fled from the outer reaches of the world where civilization destroys their home. We'll fix our typos. All right, so the heading. So we have the Lighted Forest, and we know that it is very dense, and we've got this thing going on where there's a strange hermit who lives there, because there was once a great conflict here, and conflict here waged by outsiders. We'll call them when I say outsiders, I mean like dimensional or universal outsiders. They were defeated, and where their leader or source was slain, a great tree was planted. That is the progenitor, or that is the energetic heart. Monument lies to the southwest of the tree to memorialize the lives lost there, so that none get. The memorial has script written on it that is in ancient and unknown tongue? Not tongue. I guess ancient and unknown form. Yet it can be understood by any who view the spire. And these are all things we decided in previous previous streams. So this is all stuff that was, partly contributed, partly made by me, and just kind of all meshed together into this delightful little world. The Gottsithe Mountains, so we haven't decided much about them because they were more a divider than anything. These mountains are covered in vegetation due to the rain shadow they create. Much of the condensation that would otherwise pass over them to the northwest is captured by their bulk and streamed down into the... We haven't decided much about them, so that's a pretty ripe area for opportunity. The Wellspring Peaks have a similar story to the Gottsithe Mountains. These mountains are the largest and represent another rain shadow that creates much snow and regular fueling many of the cities and villages, basin and beyond. So there's the Gottsithe Mountains right there and the Wellspring Peak. And we haven't really named any of the other ones. So there's all kinds of mountains out here that we haven't really gone into because they weren't important. Quotes around that. The plains, I don't think we ever really named them. But considering the city over here is called Altassa Ruin, I think we should just call them the Altassa Plain. Or the plains. Let's see here. Unseasonably dry due to the Gottsithe Mountain. These plains are a somewhat arid environment that gets heavy rains in during specific times of... Basically has a wet season. There are ruins on the plains that seem to indicate ancient peoples, but there is little to indicate what they were doing. Or who they were. And, yeah, so then the Plains of Altassa, and then the Wellspring Basin is, you might have guessed it, directly beneath the Wellspring Peaks to the south there. There's a dense wetland and some hills. A region of dense wetland and hills. This area is mostly impassable, except by rider. Riders are something we'll go over in a minute. Or on foot, though the latter is very dangerous. A group of monks that live in harmony with the land live in the foothills live in the foothills at the north end of the basin, just beneath the mountain. So a group of monks that live in harmony with the land, live in the foothills. They seem conspicuously unaffected by the dangers of the land, leading some to believe that they are possessed of strange powers or wise in ways beyond. In the swamp south of the foothills, there is strange happening. A blight on the land, or a blight on any peoples that attempt to pass through a road between swamp and coast. The road's name, or the road is now called the Blighted Road. Swamp is home to many manner of creatures, and most bizarrely, apparitions walking are and dead. All manner of creatures. Well, not all manners. To many creatures, and most bizarrely, apparitions in the water. The Blighted Road, once a well-traveled trade route between Kasserun and Vindrel. The road is now long abandoned, and along with its watchtowers and an inn that once served many people along. Travelers who dare to take the road do so quickly and never camp. But while it is still risky to travel the road at all, camping there is surely certain death. Some say that the spirits here are angry. Some say that there is a curse there by a curse placed there. All that is certain that people spend the night stretch of road or in the swamp disappear. That was something else we'd also decided. The reason for this, and this is, I guess spoilers, but it's because we're writing it. The reason for this is a spirit of the land that learned why their kind were fleeing to the forest. The march of civilization was destroying realistically their food source. Mind if I share a homebrew rogue subclass? So Featherfell, I don't necessarily mind, but is that really relevant? Not sure if anyone's interested in that. If you find someone who's interested, by all means, but yeah. I'm just kind of going through each of the things that we can choose from to go into greater detail about right now in the Lands of Chaos. Spirit now drives off the interloper. Or kills them. And then the Blighted Swamp. Okay. I don't see why not. We haven't actually detailed out the Godstones. The only thing here is that the gods are trapped in stones. They're bound to objects scattered across the world. So, there could be a god of light. Undecided thus far. Unfortunately, no. Yes, links are not allowed. We do have a Discord server, and there are individuals there who might be interested in hearing about this. I highly recommend joining us. Good people over there. We do have a whole a channel devoted to epic fantasy and D&D and Pathfinder. You know, if you're looking for to talk about a homebrew subclass, our D&D and Pathfinder section would probably be an excellent area to look. Beyond that, there's a lot of excellent creators also on Twitter. Yeah. You can actually meet a lot of them through our social media. If you give Gehenna Gaming a follow and just kind of like go poking around through our reshares and stuff, we interact with a lot of creators and of all varieties. You know, professionals, hobbyists, all kinds. If you're looking for feedback, excellent place to check it out. Okay, so going then back to what we were talking about, the Blighted Road is right there. This lovely little stretch of road. Excellent. And then the Blighted Swamp. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to explain the Blighted Swamp in great detail because we don't have much. A lowland swamp that branches from the Wellspring River, where a great spirit resides that seethes with rage against the civilized people of the world. Then the city of Kesaya. This one's fun. I'm actually gonna need to pull up our document because the city of Kesaya is the one that is on the back of a giant gator. So, go ahead and just pop that in there. The city of Kesaya, nestled between spiny parapet-like ridges on the back of a massive alligator, there lies an eclectic city of strange nomadic life, in which the people live on the whims and desires of a creature that some consider to be a god. The origins of the city are for much debate, though, and most common story begin that there were traders who became lost at sea and found an island upon which their ship crashed. They eked out a life there, and were surprised to discover that one day they were nearing land. The rest is history, and today the city and the alligator are points of much attention, admiration, fear, and curiosity. And I'll add the additional details as well. The people of the city lead their lives in the wake of this unthinkably vast and ancient creature upon which they reside. This affects everything in their lives, from where they get their resources to their preferences of food to their routines. By season, the great worm settles down in the ocean, the forests, the plains, and the mountains. None are precisely sure what drives the great worm, as none have ever witnessed it consume anything, though it occasionally undertakes actions outside of walking, such as kicking at things in its way. Mostly, though, it is just a great lumbering pace in a circuit. Some speculate that the gator is not actually awake, as its eyes are always closed. The truth is that the gator is no alligator at all, but an entity from far away that arrived in the world near the dawn of time and undertook the work of shaping the stone and clay of the earth. And now it recuperates from its great work by visiting energetic points and confluences around the region to, uh, to heal. In its sleep, is in fact sleepwalking. And there's a lot of things we did come up with, but just things that would need to be still expanded on. So that's the city of Kasaya. Oh, that was a really fun one to work on. I'm not gonna lie. Lots of great input and suggestions, just because it's so creative. Okay. Oh, that's right. Actually, that's not the wellspring. That's the River Moor. Forgot about that. From the river. Oh yes, the city of El Tassaruin. All life thrives on the waters of the moor. On the hottest days when the river runs low, the mud bakes dry, and the red-bellied skinks hide in the shade of our tents. On the coldest nights when you can see your breath and the beasts huddle for warmth, all life thrives on the waters of the moor. Beneath towering clay brick walls, cultivated gardens, and colorful tarps, the people of the city of forgotten magic thrive. Situated on an island in the middle of the great river Moor, the city is merely the latest of countless to reside there. The waters of the river can be life-giving in the arid grasslands of the region, or they can be destructive and overwhelming. Yet the city's walls still stand, stone pillars marking its curvature and measure, even if what lies between them changes every few centuries. The current people who live there make good use of the clay and sediment in the river, building with mud brick and shaping their environment. So, some other things about Altassa Ruin. There's a lost and or forgotten city buried beneath the current. Like layers of paint on old woodwork, there is a trove of information and relic deep beneath the workings of the current. The city is losing its magic and majesty, but not in the strictest sense, in a spiritual sense. That was another one of the details. At one point, great technologies were unearthed here, and the city became very prosperous. The city is the origin of the Striders. And then we had a bunch of religions that we started talking about, but no details on them. We did mention government and things like that. And lastly, city of Vindra. Oh, city silly me on bluffs. That's probably that one. There it is, okay. City of Vindrel. High on cliffs overlooking the ocean to the south, the city is one of the oldest that has stood since its founding. Tunnels where secrets and dangers abound honeycomb the bedrock all down the cliff face, some natural and others crafted. Strange wailing rises up from these tunnels on occasion. These songs and croons are often dismissed as the wind, but some claim that the spirits of sailors dashed on the rocks or lost in the tunnels are eternally bound there in torment. The city on the bluffs is one of the safest places from physical threats, with high walls and hardy people. Yet the seemingly beneficent feature poses additional problems in the age of Striders. The city, the city is incapable of hosting or docking those massive constructs close enough to experience their full benefit. As a result, the city relies on nearby villages to dock and service Striders and their crews. The city keeps massive storehouses of essentials on hand to service its citizenry, but the inability to acquire fresh water or food inside the city limits has created something of a limit on its growth. Still, the lives of the citizens here are said to be rich and fulfilling. Who knows what the truth is? So that is our primary list of locations. From the Lighted Forest, the Goatscythe Mountains, the Altassa Plains, Asa Ruin, the Blighted Road, the Wellspring Peaks, the River Moor, and we haven't really gone into other locations in the north yet, because well, we haven't. So maybe we'll have to spend some time doing that. But that's why we should be revisiting all of our locations, right? And you have a little monastery here, right below the Wellspring Peaks. There are some villages outlying the city of Vindrel on the cliffs over here, and there's their own river over there. So some locations that need some detail. We need to kind of probably name this lake up here because it's pretty important. The lake is a big section where runoff occurs from the melt, and gathers there and pours down and basically feeds the breadbasket of the region. So there's that. So let's go ahead and talk about that. What should this pass be named? It's pretty long. It's a pretty long pass through the mountains. I mean, 35 kilometers, or this is about 50 kilometers. The small one's about 35. So I mean, that's at least that's like a 4 days of leisurely travel through the mountains. Granted, it is a pass, so it's not the worst thing ever, but that's a long trek. Of course, well, let's see here. It's only, I guess, technically through the hardest part through the mountains would probably be about 2 days of travel. I think I'm going to think I'm going. Zoom the heck in on little lake area. Called the Great Lakes for now. It is a big lake. And there's an image. Perfect. So, this lovely, beautiful. We are talking about that being, lengthwise. We're talking about a day's travel to get to walk the length of the very large lake. Maybe not a day, but just under a day. Or it's probably, 20 kilometers? Maybe 25. So it's a very, very large lake. So, it gets a lot of runoff from these mountains. And maybe there's even a wellspring somewhere in there. Underground river or something. There's a little waterfall. So that's fun and neato. Well, if the other river is the River Moor, we should go for a very different name on this. I mean, Wellspring we've used a lot. So I guess we'll start with what it is. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm actually just going to grab my little measuring stick and see how long this is. I did kind of create a uniform measure. Wow, holy crow, it's about 30 kilometers. All right. So it's 30 kilometers by roughly 10, say. So let's just call it a 30 by 10 square. That's 300 square kilometers. So it's about 115 square miles. So it's definitely not as large as any of our Great Lakes in North America, but it is still significant. I wonder how big Salt Lake is. How big is the Salt Lake? The Great Salt Lake. Okay, yeah, the Great Salt Lake is significantly larger than what we're talking about here. It's 1,699 square miles. So this is still reasonably small. Is for those who are familiar with Massachusetts, Quabbin Reservoir is like the largest single body of water in that area, and that's only 38.6 square miles. So 10 times the size of that. Okay, that's yeah, all right. Considering this is relatively difficult terrain, it might take even longer than a day to bypass, but it is, again, very large. There could be villages if we wanted, but long is takes over a day walk pass, as it is over 300, or sorry, it's over 100 square miles, 300 square kilometers, and is the source for river that feeds breadbasket of Western. The map does it absolutely no justice. It doesn't really give scale adequately. I might need to shrink the mountains even more. Because right now the scale feels so off still, even though I already shrank the mountains. But I guess that's a question for tomorrow during midday maps, in which we continually attempt to establish better map making. It looks pretty, just not sure if it's an adequate representation. Okay. So either way, so this Great Lake is one location we haven't named. It's long. It feeds the area. I really want to name this lake. Well, it is long, so let's do some Google translating because we're nerds like that. let's do some Google Translate. Word long translated into Finnish. Why not? Pitkä. Apparently the word long. Long, tall, extended, great, long-winded, king size. Pitkä. So long lake is Pitkäjärvi. An interesting one. Pitkävesi. Actually, I think it would just be interesting if it was Lake Pitka. Doesn't sound bad to me, and it would be fun because then people are like, wait a second, is that just the Finnish word for long? It's like, it sure is, buddy. Finnish word for long. I have a joke for you all. If you move to Finland, you win because you crossed the finish line. Thank you, thank you. I'll be here all night. I will be accepting my my trophy for best dad joke. Oh, great. Wonderful. I just had to tweet about that. Alright, so Lake Pitka, this long lake takes over a day to pass, as it is for miles, and is the source of the river that feeds the breadbasket of. The lake is fed by great deal of runoff from wellspring peaks, but also seems another have an additional source of water. Perhaps an underground river of. Initially, I was thinking it would be interesting if the mountains like melted the snow, and then maybe because they're volcanic, and it then caused runoff down through into an underground river that came out there. Perhaps an underground river. Okay. So there's that. I think then it would be interesting if we just called the pass Pitka Pass. Because consistency is key, right? The westernmost pass, Wellspring Peaks. Westernmost pass through the Wellspring Peaks that north into sweltering plains. It probably wouldn't be sweltering, actually. The drylands, plains beyond. Takes 4 days. it through the map. Then we have the other pass that is closer over here. That's still a pretty long one. Probably get 3 days to get through, maybe 2, 3 days. But I'm gonna ignore that for now. So let's go with the plains up here. So something we had established previously was that there's a people who live in the north of the Wellspring Peak, or past it on the plains, and they are the Meren, or Merun, which they're a kind of draconic lizard folk. That originally hailed from there when a long time ago, or their creation myth is that the dragon of creation lay down on the volcanic ash fields thousands of years ago here when the Wellspring Peaks were an active volcano, and that they sprang up from its scales. So somewhere up here they live. So we should certainly consider making a place for them to live. So there's Pitka Pass. There is the Northern Plains. Plains are drier than Casa Plains. And border directly on both a salt pan and desert. None, as a result, the plains have life more similar to living desert like the Mojave or the, right, what's the one in New Mexico? What I'm trying to think of, I can't remember right now. Okay, in which hardy, dry grasses, succulents, cacti, cacti, yucca, various drought plants live for the small quantities of rain they receive. Plains are home to people. Then have actually call them the Whispering Plains. Plains are named for the sounds that the dry grasses make. Oh, the Ash Desert, and then the Salt Pan. I think I'd like to call the the scale flats. Desert is an admixture of sandy desert and vegetative and a living desert with patches of life between swaths, sand, grit. Area has a variety of fissures ground that seem to be old volcanic vents, time long path. Scale flats. Salt pan of a dried up body of water bordering or dividing the ash desert from the whisper. Okay. That realistically covers all the locations. These are all things we could very easily expand on, or start planning to expand. The most things we have revolve around the Wellspring Basin and the Blighted Swamp, and then the cities. We really got to spend a lot more time on the cities because cities are so rich in potential and options. So I think the last thing I'd like to do is just talk about one more location, and that is the city of maybe just Merusa. Merusa. Sure. The city of Merusa. A nomadic camp turned city on the Whispering Plain, where Mehrunes conduct their affairs of government and cool. So I think that would be it for the locations we'll need to consider expanding. So for those who have been watching, there's certainly, just kind of dwell on that for a couple minutes because we are going to take a break. We're just gonna take a couple minutes to do that, but because we're taking a break, I did want to mention. I'm not sure. Do we have any? I'm not sure who's actually in here right now. If they can confirm, I don't know if the game thing is correct. Find out. It's Monster Hearts 2 again. Rip. Okay. So, I don't want that. We are currently working with the Red Opera. It is a Kickstarter. Open that up right now, Red Opera Kickstarter. So go on and check that out. If you like D&D, if you like Warlocks, check out the Red Opera. It's fantastic. If you like what we do here, please check out our Patreon. If you love our projects and want to show some support, be a pledge. You can get early access to podcast episodes, story time recording, GM advice, and a whole lot more. So check that out. I did mention earlier that we are available on social media all over the place, so check that out as well. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And lastly, join our Discord if you like talking with me. I'm there all the time. Tag me and be like, yo, Bean, I got a question. What's up? I'll help. But that's that. So let's take a break real quick, stretch your legs, get some water, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. But before I go, Black Lives Matter. Especially in light of recent news. That needs to be said more and louder. Damn. And we are back with a vengeance. Okay. Am I unmuted? I'm unmuted, okay. So yeah, we've got our list of locations. Pretty big list. But not the largest I've ever seen, because we kind of made this a relatively small setting. Otherwise we would spend probably way too long on everything. So let's see if there's anyone in chat. I see some folks. We've got a list of places, and we're reaching a point where we're almost not gonna need to do any more high-level lore. The only thing really left to touch on high-level lore-wise is the city. Hey there, Rim. How you doing? The only thing really left to do high-level lore-wise is to do the city for the Merusa, the people who live on the in the plains. That's about it. Otherwise, we're nearing the end of our high-level lore. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to say that, you know, because I mean we're gonna have to start deep diving, which is not something I'm certain we're gonna do live on stream because it can be very dry. But yeah, it's kind of cool. So, what I'd like to hear from you guys at some point then is what you'd like to see going forward. When we're finished with all of the high level lore. Can't show the piggies. They're downstairs. I'm sorry. I was giving them a bath earlier. They were very cute. But yeah, what I'd like to see from you guys is what you would like to see more of. Because we're about ready to dive into some deeper stuff soon. So for the remainder of the stream, for the next hour, let's work on the city of Merusa. I think that's a good place to go. And we can rename it too if necessary. But right now, he's about almost done with our high level lore. So we know that the Meerun people spent time, or have spent a lot of time in this area. They believe that they came from those plains, that they evolved there. That is to say, they believe that they were born from the shed scales of the dragon of creation. And who's to say they're wrong? Maybe they were. You know, I think we should entertain that concept, because that's a rad creation story. So with our city of Merusa, the only thing we know thus far is that they originated, or the city originated as a nomad, or a nomadic stop. Nomadic stop. It's like one of those places in the deserts where there's a location where nomadic tribes gather. But it's become semi-permanent. So, originated as a nomadic stop that has become permanent for many, especially in the age of the Striders. So, that's fun. The original inhabitants of the city are the... Oh, well, welcome, Rim. So, Worlds and Crafts is a stream that is collaborative, where we create a setting, the Lands of Kaymor, or as your big dad calls it, Possum Planet. We have a lot of content that we've built up over the past many months. And here's our primary map of locations. Not all of it is labeled, but just to give you an overview, there are now 4 cities. There's the city of Vindral over here. And there's some villages that we're gonna be putting in this lovely area down here by this delta. There's a nice swamp and monk's monastery. There's another city over here called Altasaruin. This big forest that's kind of magical. And then on the plains to the north, you have another city that we were just talking about, Merusa. And there are many peoples who live in these places, and it is a dangerous world, unto the point where we're going with this concept that striders stride the world. Striders being these great big constructs that walk between locations and carrying people and cargo and such, but they're not capable of being mass produced. Our setting wide themes that we've been keeping in mind for everything we do is as follows. Life that is unaffected by civilization contains magic that becomes lost through the effect of civilization. It's an untamable force that dies when it is tamed. The inventive spark of humankind contains a different kind of magic. And I should change that from humankind, rather, of Sophont life. Wise life contains a different kind of magic that becomes lost through struggle and pain. It is a force of creation and endeavor that dies when it is snuffed out. Massive magical constructs stride the land between cities, carrying people and cargo. None are exactly alike, if similar, for they are all living creatures created through the suffusion of physical matter and spiritual matter. Adventure is a call that everyone feels, for out there in the world there are lost memories, miracles, and wisdom to be found. You can always rekindle your magic. You can always heal the wounds. And lastly, there are zones in the world where all magic becomes lost, that become filled with something else. It is seemingly unnatural and is contrarian. Gravity, temperature, pressure, life are all reversed in philosophically significant ways. And that is our guiding set of principles behind everything we've built. That no matter what we do, we apply that lens to it. We have a city on the back of a giant alligator that strides the land and swims through the oceans. The waters to the south of the city on the bluffs are unnaturally warm due to something, either magical or natural, so unusually warm, and there's coral reefs there. There is crazy ruins beneath the city of Altasaruin, and that is where the knowledge of the striders and how to make them came from. The spirits are fleeing the rest of the land and going to the forest because, well, the natural magic that fuels them, that feeds them, is disappearing as civilization expands. So that's kind of a rough overview of what we've been working on. Today, I wanted to work with the remainder of our stream, about 40-ish minutes, on building out a city that would be up here on the plains somewhere. And maybe it's in the foothills. But in either case, I wanted to work on that city where these lovely dragon lizard people live. Input is not only welcome, it is encouraged. That's how this whole thing has gone, with everyone's input. And, I have to really thank your big dad and Brooklyn Golem for being consistent in being here and helping. But we've had input from a whole lot of people. And everyone adds something new and interesting, and I kind of love it, because creating is better with friends. And I'm glad to hear you say you like world building, Rim. Do you have a lot of experience with world building, or is it just something you enjoy, fooling around with, or yeah? How often do you engage in that art, that practice? Wow, Oh, I don't have anything published either, but I do have 12-ish years of experience in world building. So I don't consider publication a mark of a of someone with practice. It will in fact be available to the public later. We are working on a primer for the setting. At the moment, it is dispersed over about 20 different documents from streams, and there's no detail leveled lore yet. It's all high level. We're going to be moving into lower level lore at some point soon. Not certain if it's going to be streamed for that purpose, because again, that can be tedious. The high level lore has been a lot of fun because it's just a lot of talking, right? You know, a lot of spitballing, and I think it's probably representative of about, each stream is 2 hours. It's representative of about 40 hours of work, I think, thus far, just to build this all out, you know, slowly over the course of the past several months, more than several. It's been like 6 months, I'm not sure. So yeah. I was just placing, doing a little placeholder addition on map. Oh yeah, and Rim, there is a map, as you might have noticed. The map we're building is with Incarnate, and so every Thursday at noon, we do midday map making, noon Eastern time. And it's just a nice, relaxing time where I make additions to the map based on decisions made in this stream. Or if we haven't made that many decisions, I work on some of the more fanciful details, like the texture of the water or the land, such. I've been learning as I go with Incarnate and been working with Incarnate for several years now. But yeah, tons of fun. What kind of work do you prefer working with, Rim? Like, what kind of setting is your favorite? And I added a little marker for our city. It ain't much, but it'll do. Ghost Owl Studios, hello! How are you? It is I, Bran the Bean Bard. Let's see. Okay. So, yeah. So, folks, those who are just joining us and those who aren't, tell me, what do you think would be some traits of a nomadic camp turned city on a very dry and arid plain that is inhabited by seemingly magical lizard folk? I did, in fact, deduce that, Ghost Owl. Yeah, I knew it was you. I remember from last time. And Rim, that's cool. Yeah, homebrews are a lot of fun. I was doing that for a long time. That was kind of how I started world building. I mean, at least in earnest. I'd been coming up with fantasy realms in my own head for many years before that, but D&D really got me interested in the idea of writing it down, and I then only recently started bringing it to full fruition. Okay. And hello, there's Silent Infinity. That's an excellent idea. Because that is always a question: where do they get fresh water? So let's add some bullet points. Go fresh water collected through evaporation techniques. That's all right, Ghost Owl. Having no chill can be a lot of fun. Yeah, so collected through evaporation techniques, passed down through generations of the Mehrunes. Cool. So we know how they get their fresh water. They probably also don't need as much water for one reason or another, just my guess. Because of their whole scaly nature, they probably don't lose a lot of moisture because they don't really sweat. So I guess that's another question. How do they cool themselves? Yeah. They are covered in scales. We did say they had fur of some sort, so maybe they like are insulated from the sun. That's an interesting thought, Rim. That if it's a nomadic camp turned city, it might cause rifts between the older folks and the more progressive inhabitants. Class struggles. So I think I'm gonna avoid implicit class struggles, but I do like that idea. I think it's a really good direction. So, a philosophical divide between the old nomads and the newer generation of, call them settlers because they're settling down, that rely on on trade. Being stationary means combating the sun, or as well, and they have begun to use let's see, flowing canopy connected to covered wagons. Large kites to create a flowing canopy. Now trying to think. I like the idea, of there being some kind of shade thing that they do. These plains are called the Whispering Plains because of the noises the grasses make. Too high of winds might prevent them from having anything that doesn't allow for the passage of wind. So, something that isn't too rigid. And again, it could also just mean that they tend to build with everything kind of sloped. Station moves combating sun more as they have begun to use things like tarps and tents, or maybe they live in yurts, or maybe like a yurt is something they've started to do. Not an insulated one like the classic, but yeah. Oh, that's an interesting idea, Silent Infinity. Parasailing lizards. So use wind power to transport goods. Oh, there is technology that we kind of implied that has been made more available due to Strider's increasing trade. What if they're responsible for making like some of the mylar, or that is used for airships? Because I mean, the concept right now is that we're on the cusp of an industrial revolution that is driven by the Striders. Like, inevitably, they're going to do something, but I don't want to put it in there yet. I want to do that whole, like, they're about to have an industrial revolution, and in the consequence of that, probably fuck things. But these plains are very hot and very dry. So, or maybe not very hot, but they're very dry. So maybe the Mehrunes are the only people who are comfortable living there. So they produce something from these. Maybe there's like a gum tree of some sort. Yeah, or maybe the grasses. Yeah. Have an excellent understanding of wind power and sailing and or I would say in aerodynamics. Have an excellent understanding of aerodynamics despite for resisting the wind, which has come in handy for in the need that has arisen recently for creating aerofoils out of lightweight material. Farm and harvest the grass, or farm and harvest a, or not, yeah, farm and harvest a grass unique to the region that maybe it's root clusters. That's root clusters contains a maybe a kind of a proteinous gelatin of some sort, gelatinous proteinous, or yeah, it is a substance that can be refined in very lightweight, rudimentary mylar. This is really interesting because this also, so something that I wanted to something I wanted to kind of imply with this setting is it's a bit on the end of anti-capitalist with its themes because you know, advancement with no wisdom is destruction, right? And the Mehrunes, you know, they were nomadic peoples and now they're settling down and they're becoming slaves to the, not slaves, but they're becoming complicit to you know, the industrialism that is eventually wrecking the world. But of course, the theme of the story is that you can always heal the wounds. You can always find your magic again. So there's that. I should say the theme of the meta plot. There's not really a meta plot. There is, but that's one thing we'll talk about actually. I think after this is maybe the next episode we'll talk about meta plots and what not to do with meta plots, and the best use of meta plots in my opinion. So yeah, have an excellent understanding of aerodynamics for resisting the wind, which has come in handy in needs that have arisen recently for creating airfoils out of lightweight material. Farm and harvest grass, unique to the region that's root cluster, contains a substance that can be refined into very lightweight, rudimentary mylar. Worship the dragon of creation. We know that. Almost exclusively. As they believe they were born of its shed scales. Built around a site of, or maybe it's built around an oasis in the dry lands that is a holy site for a holy site they maintain for the dragon of creation in hopes that it will come back and grace them with its presence. Okay. Hey, so let's see here. If it's built around an oasis in the drylands, it's a holy site. Okay, so Tay, I have a question for you. What do you think? Why do you think the Dragon of Creation has stopped visiting these people? Okay, so city of Mehrusa, a nomadic camp turned into a city on the Whispering Plains where the Mehrunes conduct their affairs. Well, in the Dragon of Creation, I mean, it is an abstract concept made life, right? So I think that's an excellent point, considering it's an abstract concept. That said, even though it's beyond their understanding, we're world building. So it's not necessarily beyond our understanding. It might not make it into the final cut, so to speak, because we don't want to reveal it in the writing. But it is worth considering for continuity what these people in the city of Merusa are doing that drives. Yes, the Dragon of Creation is a family man. He has more pressing commitments than just visiting anyone. Okay. But what is it that they're doing? That is driving, not driving off. That's not a good question. It is failing to attract the dragon. If it is creation made manifest, it needs something of an especially holistically creative endeavor to bring it about. Of course, I'm sure that the Mehrunes of the city believe that they are doing that, and that there must be something terribly wrong because the dragon's not visiting. Good question, Rim. The first time the Dragon of Creation appeared in their histories, and this was just the first time, we haven't gone into anything greater. So let's create a new subsection, the Mehrunes people. So the Mehrunes believe that they arose from the shed scales, the Dragon of Creation. About well, let's call it an age ago, when the land was covered in volcanic ash from an eruption, where the land began to sprout, grow. Dragon laid down and slept. While it slept, it shed scales that grew into the Mehrunes people. So the Dragon of Creation, we had previously established, is kind of drawn to things that are creative in their purest sense. That is to say, when something grows, like when a lot of things grow from a place of nothingness. So when I say holistically creative, I also mean something that is pure, something that is nurturing. We're talking about a philosophical concept made manifest. So creation in its aspect of life, in its aspect of art, in its aspect of innovation. So maybe, right, fair enough. So maybe when the Mehrunes, maybe when they first discovered that they could make this mylar from the roots of these plants and kind of work with nature to make these tarps, maybe they were visited by the Dragon of Creation. Because it was innovative and it was holistic and it was in harmony with the world. Maybe that's the last time it was visiting them. What do you guys think? Mayhaps, Rim. I think that, yeah, they need some similar creative event to attract the dragon. I think that's an excellent idea. That, if they are creative, but again, also in a holistic fashion. So let's mark that down. The last time that the dragon visited the people of Merusa was during a time when they let's see, when they developed their textiles without, or excuse me, what's the word I'm looking for? In harmony. In harmony with the land and natural order. They created something of a wonder form. Harps made of mylar without causing undue harm to the world around them. This benefited many peoples, enhanced life. Attracting dragon. Okay. So there's philosophical divide between the old nomads and the newer generation of settlers that rely on trade. So the old nomads believe that settling down is a sign, or is unnatural, maybe, and that it creates, or that it goes in opposition to the natural cycles of the world. The new settlers believe that that traveling is a waste of time, or is inefficient, and results in more work than benefit for everyone. And Rim asks, have they lost touch with their natural order, or are the requirements for a new appearance of the dragon a concept too complex for the nomads? I think it would be interesting to imply, because the March of Civilization, we have already said, is a core tenet of this setting, kind of takes magic from the world, so to speak. It destroys the magic of nature. That the new settlers are starting to lose touch with nature. Beginning to lose touch with nature. But maybe the old nomads had lost touch with the they lost touch with nature, and the old nomads had lost touch with their creative spark. So this then would be a conundrum of balance. What do you guys think? Anything to add to that? Oh, actually, maybe I didn't think about that. Freshwater in Merusa is collected through evaporation techniques. Maybe not passed down through generations, because they probably didn't have the ability. Through evaporation techniques, developed after mylar was developed. Boom. Why they settled down. They don't have to move around to get water anymore. So what are the permanent structures of the city? There's the holy site. Where the dragon of creation landed and lay down for a time, is kept clear and maintained. Sorry about that. Guess I'm getting tired. Perhaps since they've been trading, maybe someone has come along and introduced the concept of wells to them. I mean, they probably understood the idea of wells, but never really bothered developing the technology. So the city well, which they use to pull water, um, when they are low. Can't think of any of the more permanent locations, but that's all right. I think that we can definitely work with the concept of semi-permanent tents for the city. So let's just recap real quick. So today we went over each of the locations that we had built upon. Oh, that's a good idea, Rim. I'm gonna write that down. Some sort of so hold that thought, everyone. Maybe we'll call it the meeting hall. So today we had gone over the setting that we'd built as a whole. The Lands of Kaemor is a place that is filled with magic that is fading, and the people there are at risk of losing it forever. Though there are many who have the potential and opportunity to learn about ways to preserve the world and to preserve the magic and regain their magic and heal these wounds. From the city of Altasaruan to the city of Vindrel and the bluffs to Kasaya, the city on the back of the giant alligator, and all the way up now to the city of Merusa as well in the north. We have many peoples with many different lifestyles, all seeking to do their best for themselves and each other. But sometimes the best intentions do not result in the best things, and the land is breaking in some places. Null zones where gravity and life do not behave properly. The world is a place of dangers, but also a place that is a call to adventure. The gods are out there in the worlds, locked in stones, waiting to be found, to gain wisdom, to gain miracles. Great striders, massive constructs, walk the land. Maybe your character here could be a strider captain, and your friends the crew. It's been a while since we started working on the Lands of Kaemor, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So I want to thank everyone who's participated to date. We're not ending this. We're still going to keep going with it, but things are going to be changing shortly in how we go about it. As I said, we're reaching the point where our high-level lore is kind of almost done, and we have very few things left to add before we're going to have to plan out our deep lore. So if you're interested in contributing to some deeper lore here on Worlds and Crafts, definitely, first thing I want you to do is join our Discord. Second thing I want you to do is follow us on social media, because you'll be a lot of the things that I tweet. You can also follow me directly are retweeted by Gehenna Gaming. So I'll tweet about Worlds and Crafts and what's going on there. And I'm gonna go ahead and be tweeting a poll about what you guys want to talk about next. I was thinking that maybe we could talk about meta plots a little bit, and you know, what are some best practices there and some good practices. But we could also be talking about other things, such as game planning, you know, for a more detailed look. session planning, adventure planning, things like that. All kinds of things we can talk about here on Worlds and Crafts, but as always, this is collaborative. This is with your input, and without your input, it would be bland and boring, and it's been a ton of fun making with you guys. Creating is better with friends. So a couple things before we close out for the evening. 1, join us tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're going to be making some map. This map right here, we're going to be updating it. Gonna be adding some details to the water, maybe working on the lands around the city of Vindrel. I did the plains and the desert earlier this week, just as an additional thing. So we're getting real close to being kind of not finished, but to a working point with it. Also, be sure to check out the Red Opera on Kickstarter. Post a link in chat right now. The Red Opera is, if you like supernatural sugar babies, also known as warlocks, if you like D&D, you should definitely check out the Red Opera. It looks so very cool. It's got 7 days more left to go. Go join it. Back the project. Take part in a really fantastic setting. And for the program that we are using every Thursday, it is Incarnate. So check out Incarnate for a free mapping program. It's also shockingly low, $25 a year for the pro version, but even the free version is pretty robust. And am I missing anything? Let's see here. We covered social media, Discord. Right. If you like what we do here on Gehenna Gaming, consider supporting us on Patreon. We love to do this. We want to do more, but of course we're always limited by financial things. So the more contributors we get, the more content we can create. Check out our schedule on GehennaGaming.com. We have a full week, every week, of things we do, scheduling all new things. We got a podcast. We got actual plays. We have deep dives. We also are going to be running a con soon that I think details to come. So, yeah, that's us, Gehenna Gaming. Check us out. But thank you all for tuning in, and you all have a good night. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, creating is better with friends.